Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video by yours truly. We have CZN in the spotlight for today's content, and we've got a brand new season 2 update that just dropped. I want to go over all of the changes. There have been a massive amount of changes. If you guys want to look over every single one of them, I'll be sure to link those down below in the description box as well. But I'm going to go over the ones that I thought were the most impressionable, impactful, or worth mentioning to people who are either returning players, current players, or potentially new players. Before we get into it, though, I want to give a huge shout out to the CZN team for sponsoring this video and enabling me to bring it to your awareness. If you end up liking what you see, don't forget to click the link down below in the description box or the pinned comment to download CZN. And without further ado, let's see what changed. All right, so before we get into all the new seasonal changes, I do want to briefly mention that 9 is on the banner. This girl is an absolute monstrous defense scaling DPS. And I do mean she's a monster. She hits freaking hard. And so all of those defensive synergies that you might have been like, I don't know, collecting dust on your account, if you want to put those pieces together with 9, she will pop off. But that's not all she works with. She actually works with, honestly, you can put her with Serenio, you can put her with like Mika, you can even pair her with Narja. But me personally, you know what I mean? If a defense scaling character is going to come out, I'm going to put her with Kalipe, because Kalipe and 9, you know what I'm saying? 2 masculine, strong, independent waifus on the same team. You know, that's kind of what I was cooking. It just sounds fun. But this is 9. And honestly, I really like how she looks. I know some of you guys know the cultured part about CZN. If you were to max out the bonding with her, then you unlock the background skin. And the background skin is let's keep it in the pants, boys. All right, so like that's that, you know what I mean? And now let's talk about the season. So most of the massive positive and impactful seasonal changes, like I said, they're in the chaos mode. And that's kind of the majority of what I want to talk about. Just so you know, though, CZN does give out a bunch of rewards as you play through the chaos mode over and over. You then exchange this currency to come in here and buy up stuff. Now, something I already bought, and it's this. This is what I want to talk to you guys about. This is massive, man. So they've added in something called a flash of potential. And what this is it eases the burden of you going through an entire chaos run, feeling like you almost perfected all the right epiphanies, the right equipment, but you just missed that one epiphany on that one card that makes you feel incomplete, or even makes you feel like you bricked your run. Because some characters, they need a particular epiphany to really pop off, and you can go a whole run and not get one. This has changed everything in that regard. It's called Flash of Potential. They allow you to purchase it in the shop. They gave you 3 as soon as you log in, and then you got second and third supply. Might have more Flash of Potentials, we'll have to wait and see. But the way it works, I'll click on my Luke, I'll go to save data, right? And it'll see I have my build, and I'm like, oh, wow, look, create 2 handgun bullets. This didn't even get an epiphany at all throughout the entirety of the run. And so we go to remanifestation, and you can click and confirm. And if I click and confirm, then I'll be able to consume one of these, choose this card, and choose the epiphany. So that is really, really freaking cool, man. Now, don't use them unwisely, right? Obviously, you want to use them on that one deck that you feel was close to perfection, and it just needed that one little tinkering. I mean, it's up to you. You know, do it how you want to. But basically, that is huge in terms of like replay value in the modes. Now, in terms of the seasonal content, the way I want to do this is I brought up a recording of an entire run, because there's just so many little things to talk about. But you got to talk about them as you're going through the run, right? And so we're going to be skipping around, going to all the important changes while we're talking about these things. One of the more important and subtle things that these games will often at times just forget about is how beautiful the background looks and how like immersive that background goes. This is insanely well designed. And I know it's a little thing, but it adds in to when you're doing these runs over and over again. If the background's stale, it takes away from that sense of like excitement. You know what I mean? And so like when I'm looking at this back here, it definitely has that gory, like chaotic look. And that's not the only like little map. As you can see, we go into a new area, and now I look like I'm about to fight Valstrax from Monster Hunter. I feel like bro's about to come out and just do the flame blast. Whoosh. But yeah, this map here is really freaking cool. I love that, like, I don't know if that's like blue flames, I don't know, little creepy mushrooms back there, some black particles going through. This is the maps, and this is that new world that you can explore as you're going through the whole season. In addition to that map expansion, we also got new enemies as well as new little roguelike events to trigger different buffs and stuff. Some of them are freaking broken too, which I want to try and find those. But you can see here's a new enemy right here. They've added in these crazy like alienated space. I don't even know what to call it. Bro has a Saturn head, and inside of that, bro's got like a molecular or chromosome that is, or I don't know what they're cooking there, but it looks cool. I like it. Here's another look. This guy doesn't even have a head. He's just got a bunch of little orbs orbiting around him. So yeah, like I said, I just wanted to show off some of the new enemies. I think that's important to add to roguelike games because a lot of the times, obviously, most people are playing these games for just the combat, but like I said, it's easy to not appreciate it. If you're fighting the same enemies over and over again, bro, it gets old, right? It gets really freaking old. Speaking of which, another new NPC added in, and this part is important. This part's very important. So here they have upgraded or changed the dimensional tunnel system. Remember, guys, the tunnels are what we would look for every time in the previous season, because when you would go through them, you would get these incredibly like strong epiphanies and buffs. Well, the tunnel system has been much more calculated and refined, I would say, in this season. In this season, you're going to get the same exact thing. It's consistent when you go in here. And so you want to calculate and make sure you go into these tunnels. This same exact little perk that they added in is very important. First off, let's just talk about what that tunnel experience is like. So you go in here, this is a new map again, and you go inside this kind of like stadium, you know, like this arena, if you will, and you fight these three little goblins, and then there's something in the back. It's also a part of the enemies. It keeps healing itself. But when you attack it, it spawns in these broken freaking little cards for you to use to clap everybody's cheeks. And so it adds into the strategy of the whole entire experience. Now, you're going to fight these goblins. I think I have fought them every single time. Sometimes you'll fight the goblins and then a new like RNG monster boss will spawn in there and you'll fight that guy too. I love stuff like that in rogue modes. The more surprise factors, I think the more exciting. But yeah, as you fight them, obviously once you defeat them, then you're going to be able to unlock the new mode, the new buff. And this is right here. I've done this mode 3 times now, and all 3 times I've gotten claim your reward and imbue modification effects to selected equipment. So unless I just keep getting the exact same buff over and over again, I'm pretty sure this is the only buff that you're going to get every time. And so what does it do? Guys, this buff allows you to put a refined or like specific skill onto your equipment. And when you think about it, people have 3 pieces of equipment. And so if you go to 3-dimensional tunnels, if you should be so lucky, you can put buffs onto your equipment's buffs now. So it'll have the equipment buff, and then it'll have this buff. And think about that. Once again, 3-dimensional tunnels, you keep getting 3 of these effects. You'll now have like equipment on top of equipment, essentially. That's how that works. And so that's going to be like the new theme for the dimensional tunnels. At the start of the turn, if an exhaust card is in the draw pile, you got a 30% chance to draw it. Now that one's okay, but this one here is a banger. When a 3 cost or higher card is activated, you get 1 AP. And so I can put that onto any one of these pieces of equipment. Actually, you'll see it like over here, right? And then she'll get a 1 AP back, basically giving her an indefinite 1 AP every time she uses a 3 cost card every single turn, 1 time a turn. And you want to know the cool thing about this? And I had to learn this. I was scared. I had put this on a blue piece of equipment and I was like, oh my God, bro, blue piece of equipment. God damn it. Because I was like, when I get a legendary equipment, I'm just going to replace this. I replaced it and the buff just transferred over to the legendary piece of equipment. I was so freaking excited about that because I was worried it was just going to obliterate my buff, thus defeating the entire purpose of going in that dimensional tunnel and choosing it. So these are going to stay on the slot you put them in, so to speak. Don't worry about like if you change out your equipment, the buff's gone too. It stays on the slot of the equipment. W change. Also, I love this a lot because it expanded upon what they already had in the game that was cool, but just needed more innovation. This is innovation, right? This is what I talk about when games make their games. improve upon your foundations, man. Like make things more cooler, get creative. And I feel like they did that right here, which is super cool. All right, just so we can like look at a little bit of 9 gameplay right here while we're going through all the changes. 9's got a lot of 3-cost cards, and every time 9 uses her 3-cost card, it exhausts itself and upgrades. And so she cannot go wrong with synergies that can exhaust that 3-cost card, send it to the trash, and then upgrade it again. You just can't go wrong with it. It just makes her stronger and stronger. And then eventually she gets this final evolution of that and just like claps their cheeks. But I've had a great deal of fun with this character. I'm going to be real. I think she's actually, and I'm not saying this just because of the sponsor, I think she's my new favorite character. I love the Giga Chat chicks. I love the chicks that aren't like so girly, but they're more so like super badass. And she's still hot. They still got the good 3D animation, right? And so you'll see it. It upgraded into now a gold hue level 2. And so it upgraded again. So it has exhaust. So if you don't use it and you end the turn, it just exhausts itself anyways. And then you go into the next turn and now it's at hue level 3 with the freaking mythic evolution, right? Rocket Punch. This is one of the new cards that's been added in with the seasonal change. And you can put this Rocket Punch on somebody like Narja. And every time a turn ends, this Rocket Punch has a 50% chance of activating for free. And so it's like free damage on that one character. It's not really doing anything on the team. It worked out very well for me. Well, like I said, we'll go over the cards here in a bit later on in the video. But now she's got her look. She's got her like aura emanating on her. 9. That's because she's got her hue level 3, right? It's up there. It's like ready for cast. So we got Fighting Spirit, which is going to automatically cast a 3-cost or higher card of 9s for free. And then she's going to cast that bad boy. Look, bam, brother. Yes, sir, bro. Dude, 9 is up to, I really like 9 a lot. I owe y'all a stream. I do. I owe y'all a stream. So that is pretty much 9 in a nutshell. Ooh, real quick. This is a new little roguelike event. If you run into them, you see they got all these different little like holograms or like duplicates of 9. Trigger Secret Epiphany to cards 1 time. Yes, so we've got even more little buffs like this that are in this season. These didn't even exist before. Like just trigger a freaking Secret Epiphany. So you can do that and you'll see it's a lot more stuff. Like I said, I've only played 3 times. In terms of like running through runs. The more runs you play, the more new stuff you end up discovering. But they've added a ton of little perks like that into the game. But moving on, Secret, if you ever get that, it's freaking broken, by the way. Okay, one more important thing I wanted to mention. So they added in Faint Memory so that you're able to keep track of how many points you have until you cap. Remember that? That has already been added in. I know that's been in the game, but it is worth mentioning for potential like returning players that didn't know. One of the frustrating things when the game came out is you had to like put on a sheet of paper how many points you've been consuming and know how many points each thing consumes. This is in the game. It's been in the game, but it's worth mentioning. But this part down here wasn't in the game. And this is a nice little QOL, but it's worth having. You now can keep track of how many cards you've removed without having to keep track of them in your brain. And you can keep track of how many cards you have duped on each character. It also even tells you the cap of how many you can do. Now, nobody ever removes 5 cards, at least I ain't never removed 5 cards. In fact, usually it's only 2 because 3 starts to get very expensive in terms of how much it costs. But the more information they could supply here on this screen, the better. Nobody wants to calculate things in their brain, bro. That's freaking miserable. I just wanted to mention that. All right, here's when you fight the final boss of the new mode. This is very important, guys, because the final boss is where you usually get the most broken stuff. And sometimes you don't make it to the final boss, but should you be strong enough to beat the final boss, you usually get a free dupe, right, to copy a card. You usually get a legendary piece or a mythical piece of equipment, actually. And then they've added in something new called the God's Hammer. Now, this is freaking cool. Once again, innovating and expanding upon foundations. The God's Hammer now upgrades and adds a unique effect to a character of your choice. Here we go. So God's Hammer. Select the refined equipment to use the God's Hammer on. An additional powerful effect will be applied to the refined equipment. And then you click confirm, and it's going to give the God's Hammer perk to it. So this now has increased damage amount of attack cards by 20%. That was something I had already put on it from a Dimensional Tunnel run. But we scroll down, I then, in addition to that, I have in Chaos Order battles, plus 15% defense. So just a raw 15% defense stat boost. And that was with the God Hammer. So once again, going through these chaos modes now have been re-incentivized, great replay value to get those God tier builds to then bring in to the in-game mode where you go and slap everybody's cheeks up. Really solid change. Now there's even more nuclear important changes. Outside of non-seasonal content, they have revamped the Zero system. Guess what you see on that screen over here? Yep. We now got 10 out of 10 free merges. This used to cost a freaking arm and leg to the point where a lot of people virtually wouldn't even touch it because they would get a brick on what they would roll right here. And then to re-roll it, which is the refresher, it costs too much, right? But now you've got 10 out of 10. You can use this, activate it, and then click merge, and it'll put you something brand new in there. You can choose from 3 ones, and it adds in the seasonal Seed of Karmic Fire perk too, which is your tunnels in the new season, where you're able to imbue effects onto equipment. Yep, that's now in the non-seasonal chaos runs too, the Zero system. So massive change there, huge W. They've also got Codex Record and Archive. Codex Record, you just, by clearing random things, you get pull currency, and in the archive you can go and look at all the different bosses that you've challenged, which you can see I've got a lot of work to do. I tell you, I didn't touch this mode literally because of this. Now that this is here, I will have a lot more fun doing it. Now we also got upgrading. They've completely revamped this as well. It's much more meticulous. You've got your basic calculation output, which is permanent stat increase for people when they go into these runs, and then you've got things like increase epiphany chance by 1%. You can also reset if you don't like what you've invested in, and it will cost this currency over here. And then they've got this, which is when entering chaos, increase the chance of encountering divine delegates by 100%, right? So basically the way they've allowed this change to function is you're going to have a much more strategical advantage in terms of what you want to do as a player when you're going into those chaos runs. Now, getting out of this and going back into the seasonal content, the cards. I just want to give you a bit of sense of direction of what kind of cards they've got in here. They've added new cards with the season that, of course, are going to synergize with 9, whom they are pushing towards people to play, and I love 9. But let's say you're skipping 9. These cards are still good for exhaust decks, period, right? If you're playing, because 9's not the only person with an exhaust deck. You've also got, let's just go ahead and pop up out of here real quick. You've also got people like Luke when he creates his handgun bullets. All of them are exhaust. You've also got somebody like Renoa. She just freaking she pops off with that freaking dirge bullet, right? Them dirge bullets start racking up. So like, there's a lot of characters that got exhaust in this game apart from 9, but of course, with the new season and 9 coming in, they're building them with her primarily in mind too. That said, we've got Spore Harvester. This shit's cracked. Incinerate, create 2 contaminated spore. So if you exhaust a card from her, which you exhaust a lot, you're going to be able to create 2 contaminated spore. They will increase the damage taken by 10% as a debuff onto the target, and it stacks. If you don't have a way to exhaust this card, it retains itself and then creates 1 contaminated spore. So you win. It's a win-win. The next card, Nutrient Absorption. Select and exhaust 1 card in hand. For each cost of that card, decrease the cost of 1 random card in your hand by 1 for 1 turn. 9 has 3 cost cards. So, and they benefit from being exhausted, right? So if you literally exhaust a 3 cost card, 3 cards in your hand get reduced by 1. Very strong cards right here. And these, like, obviously, again, they're with 9 in mind, but you can also take advantage of them with other people. Like, look at this, Bullet, Mushroom Ammo. That means Luke could use it. Hell, Renoa could use it. 450 damage, double the effect of the Spore Propagation. Spore Propagation. That's that debuff that allows them to take an increase in damage. Then you got equipment that's going to synergize with some of those things we're looking at. But this equipment is good for shielders. Shielders who can allow your team to not take damage because the shield is just so beefy. That's what these are for. And then you got 3 costs of 2 costs of higher use. But you look at something like this, double the effect of Spore Propagation, right? So you put that on somebody, make sure you get the Spore Propagation cards in debuffs, put this on somebody, and then, dude, they're going to be taking so much damage because the debuff keeps ramping up. I love what they've done here. One of the most exciting things about seasonal dynamics in video games is getting that new fresh content with new ways to build your decks and play with your characters. These were all the positive changes that I have found in this current season of Chaos Zero Nightmare. But I do want to mention, in fact, you know what? And before I end this video, this patch came out with a nuclear amount of like update. I just want to give you an example. So once I told you balance adjustment, these are all the characters that got buffed. All these characters got buffed, right? I will link this down below, but this patch, brother, I could scroll for 3 million years with how much stuff they have added in here. That's why I was telling you, it's impossible for me to go over every single thing that has been added in. So I'll just take this link and share it down below for those of you who want to take a deeper dive into everything that's been added. It's been too much stuff to keep up with, to be honest, guys. But yeah, that is going to wrap up this content. I hope you guys liked what you saw. I'll be playing it. I have never stopped playing Chaos Zero Nightmare. I still play casually every single week, but I'm going to be going live, non-sponsored live stream. And I want to play with you guys just to see what maybe I missed out on. But thanks for watching. Peace, love, and happiness. Comment down below and let me know what you guys thought. And again, if you want to give it a swing, you can click the link in the description box or the pinned comment to download Chaos Zero Nightmare and experience Season 2. All right. See you guys in the next one.